Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Sports Community live stream. As we're doing every Wednesday for the next 4 weeks, including today, we're doing sport differently. And today, I am really pleased to be joined by Chris Wall from the Frankston Stingrays Hockey Club. Chris, welcome to Sports Community live stream.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for hosting me in this otherwise weird time.
Well, in a normal time, we would have probably, separated ourselves by maybe 10 kilometres. So in another time, we would have just got in the car and, I don't know, go to Frankston Pier and done it from the beautiful surrounds of Frankston Pier. But the new world we live in is we do it remotely. But when it comes to participation, the world is changing dramatically. And I'm not laughing at all your titles, but you're vice president of the Frankston Stingrays Hockey Club, the inclusions ambassador, which we'll come back to, more traditional role, men's coordinator, and as most people become at a sports club, you're the barbecue operator extraordinaire. So you've got about 8 different.
Someone might fight me for the barbecue title, but I'm pretty sure they'll be happy to relinquish all the other ones and let me have them.
So before we go into what Frankston Stingrays Hockey Club have done from a participation options, social sport and modified formats, just take us through the role of inclusion ambassador, because it's a relatively unique role within the club.
Yeah, so I guess it probably starts with Hockey Victoria, and the story goes back to a Victorian hockey player who really started he came out openly as a gay sports person and was really proud about it. His hockey club then supported him through that, and then you end up with things like Pride Cup, Pride Round, and there's all different variations, and hockey has always been, I guess it's always been an inclusive sport. It didn't matter where you came from, what you did. You didn't have to be massive or built like a footy player. You didn't have to be super fast to be the best. And it was always men's and women's. There was never a push to make women's more. It was always a male-female sport. So it sort of felt, I guess, a natural progression from Hockey Victoria's. And the player was Gus. My foot's great. Sorry, it's escaped me. But they started this big movement, and it really changed, I guess, my view on what an inclusive and community sports club could be. And it went from just educating myself about the LGBTQI community and understanding, language that was used in the past that's inappropriate now, then educating my fellow team members. And, men's sports can be quite sort of a lot of bravado, and the language used, it isn't appropriate anymore. So it was just about sort of just pulling people up in a nice way and saying, hey, you know what, we don't want to be that kind of club. This is the culture we want. We want people to join in and feel welcome and safe. There's enough challenges in the world for those who are sort of a minority community, and we want to make them not feel like a minority. We want to bring them into the majority and make them feel welcome, have them understand that everyone is normal at hockey. Everyone, it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, what you believe in, who you love, or how you dance, or whatever it is, what you wear. Everyone, when you put on the Frankston uniform, we're all the same. We're all just hockey lovers having a good time. So that developed. Michaela Cook at Hockey Victoria started. She's basically the inclusions officer at Hockey Victoria, I think her title is, and then it stemmed from there. And then we sort of just allocated a role. I sort of took it on as a new role, and really opened up my eyes as to how we can be a better sporting club without having to change a number of things. And we took a bit of a gamble in a sense that we can see, to reverse on our left sleeve, we have the pride flag there that Hockey Victoria use. And that was more about us just wearing and, I guess, putting our money where our mouth is, saying that, yes, we can say we're going to do it. Now we're going to visualize we're going to do it. And people recognize that from within those communities. And now that we're a better educated club, I really believe that it's made a massive difference in making everyone feel welcome. The culture's changed. And that also stems to Indigenous communities. Sports Rec Victoria, RecLink Victoria. They do some sports with players with disabilities of all nature, and we did some hockey programs down there. There's a great event down at Frankston Football Club, the VFL field down there, and then RecLink did a little day down. We took some hockey stuff down there, and I had people with mental and physical disabilities join in, and it was really great watching everyone play a sport that I've played for 15 years, but never seen this cohort of people join in. So it was good to teach them hockey, and it just flowed from there. Now it's just, if we try better to understand who we have in our club and make them feel welcome. that's long story short. We should have started with that. Would have saved 15 minutes of a ramble.
No, it's only 5. So, but I think it's very important that you've identified a much maligned group of people that are continually discriminated against in our community, which is those that can't dance, right? So,
guilty. Got the bad news.
But just going quickly, so you picked that up from a Hockey Victoria program, and one of the things that clubs don't recognise is that the peak sporting bodies offer a lot of different programs for a lot of different reasons, particularly around participation. And so you and Frankston Stingrays Hockey Club introduced 2 programs, the J-Ball and the Hockey Sixes. So tell us a little bit about why you did that and what those programs were and who are they looking to attract.
Yeah, so again, back to our governing body, if you like, Hockey Victoria. They were, and Vic Health as well. So there's a number of different sort of parties involved in that, in making, I guess, an all-access format of the sport that we so traditionally love as hockey. How do we? It can be this with sport. I guess there's a commitment. You've got to pay fees. You've got to sign up to a season. You've got training. You've got equipment. You've got uniform. You've got functions and events. Not everybody wants to do that, nor does everybody have the financial sort of acumen or budget to put that in there to make it happen, or just the time. They could be time poor. So through that, Hockey Vic came up with J-Ball and a Hockey Sixes program. There's always been similar things ran, but never really formalised, and not all clubs could, I guess, sort of really fit that into their season. And we sort of had a chat with them, and it was started at a couple of other clubs up north, and we're probably one of the most southern clubs in the state. So we took it on down south and ran that out at Monash Peninsula campus in Frankston. And we brought Hockey Vic in, and they all supported us, and we got a grant through Vic Health, so the Vic government, Sports Rec Victoria, I think it was from memory, to basically start a program that allowed everyone and anyone to play of any skill level, of any background, of any fitness, of any time commitment, low cost as possible, to jump on the pitch and have a run. So J-Ball was played with a bit of a larger ball than a traditional ball, played with more of ice hockey looking sticks. They're sort of a bit flimsier, a bit softer, less injuries. Copped a few of them in the season, busted knuckles all over the place. That's probably my own fault, not anybody else's. But and then that also opened up the door for Hockey Sixes, which was play with traditional stick, traditional ball, quarter field, again, low commitment, short format, and open for anyone. And we divided the teams up based on skill level and experience level, and found that we had parents, grandparents, people from other clubs. We had umpires, hockey umpires who haven't played hockey for a long time, bring their children along and play. We had mums, dads, daughters, grandparents, grandmas, everybody joined in. And it was people that I'd seen at the pitch for 10, 15 years that had never played hockey because they were always busy getting the kids on the pitch, or they were helping out. They just couldn't give the time. And they jumped on the pitch and had a run, and it became a really fun experience. It's now become probably one of the most looked forward to things in our summer calendar at hockey. We ran it again, and we'll continue to run it for as long as we can to keep engaging people. Through that, we've basically helped rebuild and develop our women's section again, which we've done really well with. We've gone from 1 to almost pushing 4 teams. If this year wasn't so weird, almost would have fielded 4 full women's teams, and a lot of them came across from social hockey. So they tried it out, had a bit of a laugh, met some people, felt a connection, and then moved into winter sport, which ultimately that's what we want everybody to do, is to join in the community that we have and the culture we have, and how do we open that up to people who may not normally be exposed to that. And with the support of Sports Rec Victoria, Vic Health, and Hockey Victoria, we were able to do that. And I loved it. Even I did. I've been playing hockey for 15 years. Doesn't mean I'm great, but it was also just good to play sport in a really social, short format, have a bit of a laugh. Sun's going down, 8 o'clock on a Friday or Thursday afternoon, and everyone's standing around having a laugh at each other, trying to play what is normally a sport we're all very educated on, and now we're playing a modified format, which is very different. So trying to run around and have a good time, and it was good. It became a really good social thing as well as a fitness and health thing and an engagement component of our club. And, in a nutshell.
Well, a lot of the time when we talk to clubs about the importance of social sport, but most clubs of their historical traditional format is competition, competition,
Yeah.
competition, competition. And we talk about, well, social sport is really, really important. But what you've just illustrated or experienced is bring people in through the social sport and then create that pathway for those that are interested and do actually find that they want to progress beyond the social side into the competition. And so your experience is that you from that methodology, you went from one team to 4 teams, which is potentially, I mean, that's vindication of why every club should use social sport.
Over a couple of years, that program really opened up pathways for people to re-establish their love with a sport they haven't played for a long time, or they've watched other people, their children or their partners play. And it was a slow build over a few years to get those women's teams. We went from 13, 14 players. Now you're pushing 40, 45 players in our women's section almost. It's unfortunate we can't field them all. Hockey was one of the last sports to pull the pin. Hockey Victoria and a lot of the clubs did a heap of amazing work. So I should give a shout out to the volunteers and they're putting that time, not only at Frankston, but at every single sporting club, especially hockey. We ran up, right to the 11th hour, really. 11:59 on the D-Day clock before Hockey Vic had to pull the pin under the instruction of the government, just for health and safety reasons with COVID, the virus, making it very difficult. But the volunteers are out there helping people sanitize, wash hockey balls, keep the club clean, and sanitizing and registering who comes in, who comes out for contact tracing. It was an amazing effort. And I think the hockey community has something a little bit different from every other sporting community. I mean, no disrespect to any other sports community, but I've been in a few different ones. And I really feel like hockey people are resilient. They won't take no for an answer. They will find a way to play hockey in any circumstance. And we were, so close to making it happen. And then unfortunately had this second sort of wave or this influx of cases come up, which meant that we had to sort of lay down our arms and stop fighting the almost impossible fight and just have a season off. But hopefully we can get back on the pitch, before the season's end and get those engaged people, the newly engaged people from modified sports into a whatever regular season we can put together.
Well, let's go back to, I'm really interested in the J-ball particularly. There was 2 kind of target groups. One, those bringing people back to the game, but also bringing people to the game for the first time. Look at it through their eyes. What were they feeling? What were their experiences? What were their anxiety when they're kind of stepping on the pitch for the first time to play what us non-participants could look as being quite an intimidating sport, hard ball being flown around everywhere. So how did you take people on the journey from the couch to having a crack, and what was the format? So, and how are they feeling? And that's about 20 questions. So I'll stop and let you go.
I can't really speak, in specifics about how they were feeling, but if you watch, we've got some, there are some videos that Hockey Vic shared around sort of just some brief interviews, video interviews with players on a night that we were doing it. Everyone's smiling, everyone's laughing. Even I got my ugly mug on there, having a bit of a laugh. It was just, it's weird. It sounds cliche and tacky, but it's a real joy to be a part of something like that. And that's really what community sport, whether it be hockey, football, tennis, rugby, soccer, golf, whatever it is that you play, that's what community sport's about. Just having somewhere to be. Now, outside of your 9 to 5, or if you work weird night shift, outside of night shift, outside of weekends, you can not be a mum or a dad or an employee or a brother or a sister for 45 minutes, maybe half an hour, and just have fun. Just let your hair down, enjoy it, make a fool of yourself. I guess it's probably daunting to come on to the pitch for the first time, but like anything, once you do it once, you take the training wheels off and you have a bit of fun. So we in terms of retention rate from that, I guess that probably speaks volumes to how they felt. It was quite a high retention rate, quite a high return rate. The program grew over a couple of years and got bigger and bigger, and quite a large portion of those players ended up playing in a winter season of which I would say a regular season through either a Monday night Peninsula Women's Hockey Association that's down on the peninsula there. We have a number of clubs who enter teams on that on a Monday night, and it's a women's association for hockey, but it's not played on the weekends. So a lot of them went into that, which is at that entry level, still competitive though, and then went through to then the standard Hockey Victoria home and away season from there as well. So that retention level, I guess, speaks volumes to how they feel. And I guess if you're in maths or you're in public policy, data doesn't lie, and the data doesn't say anything negative. It was really good data. And if you look past data and look at people are playing hockey. We had more than ever, and that was our goal, just to get people off the couch, get healthy, have a laugh, and just enjoy yourself.
Yeah, and if you look at for me, I'm a practitioner that looks to create models that can move from club to club, because people are not replicable. It's the processes that are. And so if you look behind the process, you've got an introductory, really social, really fun, teaches the skills, modified equipment in J-ball. Then if people want to, they can move to then the hockey sixes, which again's social competition, come when you want, don't come when you want. The person's in control of that. It's still very social. And then if you want to, there's the next step. Again, for a lot of sports, you go straight from social to pure competition, which is a step too far. But as you said, you created the midweek competitions, which is a lower standard, lower intensity, still high levels of fun. And then if you do want to continue, you then can go into those competitive formats.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, a pathway.
But now, importantly, I think probably down as well, because as you said, you were coming back and the players were coming back and playing in the other formats as well.
Yeah, we had men's and women's first players, who've some brilliant skill from all different age groups that wanted to join in just for fun. They'd played competitive sport their whole life, and come summer, just want to have a laugh, and then have a giggle on the field, have a laugh off the field, make fun of each other. A bit of banter, a bit of friendly joking around. As you run around with a rather floppy hockey stick and a ball that's probably double, triple the size of a normal one.
But you're running around with your mates where you might not normally have that opportunity, because they might not be at the level that you are. You don't get the opportunity to play with your friends where you do in these formats.
Yeah, you had teams with mums and dads and sons and daughters all on the same team, all joining in, having a laugh. So it was something different, which was good, and it was just a bit of a shake up to the standard sort of community sport model, and having a pathway from laugh, community engagement to something a little bit more serious, but still community engagement and still a laugh, into then an entry level competitive season, and then you can work your way up if you wanted to, or if you just wanted happy to play a casual game here and there. It gave that opportunity, which we didn't really have that before. It was sort of finish your juniors or come along and play, just jump straight into a team. And then you can be to potentially an 18-week season. If you're lucky enough to play finals, you're looking at that 20 weeks. That you may, and that was probably deterrent for a number of people. So even now, I think my wife isn't so fond of how long it goes for at hockey, but she also supports everything I do at hockey, which is good. I will give her a shout out. And for me, if that's me, young family, wife in uni, then there's probably plenty of people out there that are much busier than I am, with much larger families than I am, much more responsibilities and commitments, that haven't had the opportunity to play sports. So this was our opportunity to give them an opportunity, and it really worked well. And Hockey Vic did it again, and then we sort of have every intention of doing it again, as long as we can get a handle on this virus. So everyone stay at home, wear a mask, look after each other, so we can all play sport again.
Yeah, and if we just kind of start to wrap it up. So one of the things when we're talking to clubs, the big resistance is it's another burden. There's no benefit to offering the social formats. So what would you say to those clubs that about the benefits of offering the social format, the time, the effort, and creating that pathway? What are those benefits that you've found?
Ultimately, clubs need players to continue to operate. It's as simple as that. You need to have players coming through the programs. You have things like, I think back in the day when I was a kid, it was Milo cricket, Auskick for AFL. There's tennis. There's the Aldi was supporting a soccer program there. They're essentially community engagement programs for split modified versions of AFL, soccer or football. Don't want to offend any football fans out there. NRL, cricket, whatever it is you play, they're modified formats, and they're there to engage people and at a very young age and teach some basic skill and get some interest. And those players end up playing AFL, or they end up playing for Hyundai A-League or whatever it might be these days. It's the same thing, but it's just for everybody else. You've got to have multiple avenues for people to try your sport and work out if you love it. And it's not the be-all and end-all of every sporting code or club out there, but we need members to field a team. And how do we expose ourselves to as many people as possible to then build a bigger and better happy family club? And that is to open up avenues for anyone of all age, all backgrounds, ethnicities, gender preferences, Indigenous or not, or immigrants or not. It doesn't matter who you are. How can we open this sport up to you and let you know that we welcome you? We want you to be a part of our family, and we want you to feel safe at our club. You don't have to commit too much. You just got to rock up and have a laugh and see if you like it. And if you do, you'll probably end up sticking with us for life. We're playing with players that have been playing for 50, 60 odd years. I won't name names because they'll come and get me eventually if they look a bit younger than they are. But players that have been playing for far longer than I've been alive, once you're in, you're in. And the benefit of hockey, we'll give hockey a plug here, there's no tackles, there's no screamers. As glorious as they may be in the AFL, there's no screamers. The risk of getting those physical injuries, dislocating a shoulder or tearing an ACL are quite minimal. So you tend to play hockey from a very young age to somewhat a very, very a mature age is what I'll use. I believe Mary Lofthouse, she was with Hockey Victoria, worked for Hockey Victoria for a long time. She had 1,000-odd games, I think, in the end before she retired out there up at Thames. 1,000-odd games. If how many football players can say you've played 1,000+ games?
Yeah, it's huge, isn't it? So if I'm a club that's thinking of listening to you and going, well, that's huge. The benefits of introducing social sport. What would be the tips that you would be giving those clubs that as they start on this journey?
Do it. Tip number 1, do it. Tip number 2. It's a challenge to get started. Don't shy away from it. If you have one person that rocks up to if you're afraid of someone might not turn up, who cares? Who cares if no one turns up? If one person turns up, that's one person that you never spoke to about the sport that you love prior to that, them walking in the gates of your facility. They've got friends, they'll tell somebody else. And then we went from, very few numbers and it increased through word of mouth. Somebody brought their friend or their work colleagues. We had a young couple come along last summer just gone, and they brought a few of their friends in the second week, and they brought one of their friends the week after. So by mid-program, we had turned two participants into almost seven or 8 participants. So out of nowhere, it became something for everybody. So you've just got to get into it. Be open-minded about the suggestions that come through. Not everybody has a natural sporting gift. I know I don't. I play with players that are much younger and much better than I am, and I wish I had their natural ability, but I do it because I love it. And if you can get someone to love your sport or just love to be in that environment, even just to be around a club where it's a family away from a family, if you like, that will make a big difference. And the first year was hard. It was the unknown. The second year, we're more prepared. We had a bit of a process. Hockey Vic was really supportive in us, helping us develop that process and how we market that to the wider public. And we'd just gone through a club refresh in terms of rebranding, a new logo, new uniform, new culture, new set of values that we really wanted to embody. So everything was big changes for us. And it was just another change that we brought in. It was through chance. It wasn't through design, but an opportunity came up for us to try something different. And I guess if you're in business, you diversify your income streams, so you're more resilient to difficult times like we're in now. Even we just diversified our engagement plans and where we can get members from and how we can bring people into the community that is the greater hockey community. Not just if they end up playing for another club, I'd love them to play for Frankston, but if they play for another club, well, they're still playing hockey. That's the sport that I love. We're men's and women's. We're constantly one or two in terms of on the world stage. So if we're bringing more people into that, we're going to stay the best. And I'm proud to say that I am a hockey player, and I'm proud to say that I'm a Stingray. Always have been, always will be. And if anyone's watching and you want to give it a crack, here's my little plug. Come along, and give it a go. We're up and running.
Mate, that's why you're the vice president, the inclusions ambassador, the men's coordinator, and obviously the barbecue coordinator, because this is the barbecue coordinator.
Coordinator. You might have to. I think Matty Hurst might have a bit to say, or Dennis might have a bit to say about that one. But I'm going to claim it until they say otherwise.
That's fine. Now, if we just, in summary, if I just pull up the Vic Sport, the framework that Vic Sport have developed with La Trobe University, with the 6 principles that really help clubs introduce new participation options for sport. And you can get all the access to this information at doingsportdifferently.com.au, and the resources are brilliant. But just highlighting a couple of the principles, Chris, that principle number 5, needing a clear pathway for retention or transition as their skills, fitness, interests in change, I think either develop or come back down the scale a bit is been, to me, a really key part of it, as well as the fact that you engaged. What you did, you didn't reinvent the wheel, and I love that. So many peak sporting bodies have done a lot of the work where they've engaged target markets, and they're looking at things through the participants' perspective, creating those formats that, as you say, create the fun, the enjoyment, and the outcome that we're looking for. So you're a living, breathing, or Frankston Stingrays Hockey Club is a living, breathing example of why these principles were created, so clubs and sports could follow them. So, Chris, fantastic effort, and thank you very much for being part of the Sports Community live stream and sharing the story of your club with all of us today.
No, thank you very much, and thank you for having me, and thank you for everyone who in any code participates and volunteers and helps out any sporting code and club. You all do a great job, and community sport wouldn't be what it is without volunteers. So take my hat off to the volunteers and all the supporters. So thank you very much. And there's a good opportunity to talk to you about it. And hopefully we can get back to playing the sports we love in a matter of weeks.
Now, Chris, before you go, it was remiss of me not to invite the audience to participate with questions and their experiences as well. So Rachel has asked the question, how do you go about introducing new roles to your club volunteers? Did you need to recruit more or lessen the extra work? What a great question, Rachel.
Yeah, it's a very good question. The challenge of community sporting clubs is who has the time to do what, and where do you find the time between being a mum, dad, brother, sister, partner, husband, wife, CEO, bricklayer, student? Where do you find the time to do the things that are required for a sporting club to operate? And for us, we had a really good opportunity just prior to this. So things sort of fell into place just prior to this, where we had restructured our club. We had done things the same way for a long time, and it worked quite well. We wanted to really modernize the way we did things and ensure we don't burn our volunteers out, because that's the biggest challenge with sporting clubs, is you end up with someone doing almost everything and then a handful of people pitching in to help that person out. So we really looked at it at a business perspective and separated, said, how would a business operate? What does a president of a business do, or a CEO? They delegate, they support, they help direct. They don't physically get out there and sell the products their company sells. They support and they direct the organization. So we had that. We took an organizational structure. We looked at what roles were really important and who had the experience, whether it be hockey experience or business experience. We had, Monica jumped on as a child protection safety officer. So how do we make our place safe? How do we engage policy? How do we make it the most robust place, sporting club we can, without being too bureaucratic? And that was to find people with skill sets within the business. Our treasurer, Helen's done an amazing job. She's, an accounting background, I think, to some degree. If not, she should be. She's done an amazing job. So we found people with skill sets that were, and we spoke to them and said, we would like your help. We'd really love if you could give us a hand. Some people fell into those roles naturally. Some people required a bit of, I guess, pushing the square peg through a circle hole. But once they got to the other side, they really enjoyed it. And in terms of creating new roles, I guess too many chefs make a bad broth. It's as simple as that. We created a role as we needed it. We'd never had a child safety protection officer before. We never had a community engagement officer before. But we had to have a reason why we wanted it. Why did we want that role? What was the outcome? So process, measurement, outcome. What was it that we were trying to achieve, and did that warrant another person, another volunteer? Us asking someone to give up their time. They're not non-paid positions, so we've, I guess, justifying that to a volunteer, saying this is the benefit for our club, this is the benefit to you doing it, and we'd really appreciate your time. That sort of fell into the organisational structure. In terms of sort of new roles popping up, I just took on, I guess I'd take on a role and understand the time commitment that was involved. So the community, get the inclusion ambassador role. That's something that we've got a couple of members that want to do that role now, that are active within the LGBTQI community, and would probably be better suited to that role with those connections within the community. And this year they were going to hand over, but it didn't quite happen because of COVID-19. But I took the role on, understood what it entailed, the time, so then I could pass that information on to the next person. And we had a bit of a document, a bit of a running sort of policy, if you like, or process about what it is the person does, what it is they need to do, the time and that it takes, and our expected outcome, and the support channels available to you within the club. And that enabled us to then really set in a strong structure to build, and then have people look for different opportunities to make the club bigger and better, or safer and happier and stronger.
Yeah,
that was a very long answer to a very short question.
And just to probably add one little thing to that, when we find it's less about skill set when we're looking for people, because often people don't have that skill set, and more about having an interest in that area that we're asked them to do. So if someone's got no kids, then really they're the right person to ask for helping with kids, and like vice versa. It's not necessarily say that young mothers would be overly interested in helping set up a master's program, for instance.
Spot on. That's probably a caveat that we should mention, is that just because you're an accountant doesn't mean you want to be an accountant on the weekends for a hockey club, or a treasurer. Just because you're a CEO, you may not want to be a president for a sporting club. I've got, I'm not within the LGBTQI or the Indigenous or the disabled community. I don't come from those sectors. But taking on the role was about educating myself about those communities, why they're feeling, I guess, segregated or compartmentalized, and how do we break down those walls. For me, it was an education process that I learned a lot out of, and I thank all those who gave me their time and were patient with me to better understand what it is to really embody those values, and not just virtue signal, not just slap a logo on your shirt and say, oh, we do all this cool stuff. It's about what it is to really live it and breathe it. I may not have been the best fit for the person for that role at the time, but I was definitely open-minded enough to want to take that on. And it was also a bit of a self-awakening journey, if you like, not to sound too tacky or cliche, but it was about me learning and opening up my mind to the broader communities that exist within our large community, and offering them a safe space to participate in sport. So, it may not be that, someone may be a bricklayer. It doesn't mean they want to lay bricks and build your clubhouse. But if you ask them, they might want to be a treasurer. They might want to be a safety officer. They might anything. Umpire. You just ask people and let them know. Be clear about the time involved, and give them realistic timeframes and realistic involvement levels. Don't say, oh, it's 2-3 hours a week, and then they're spending 18 hours a week. That's not how clubs or communities, organisations thrive. You've got to be very clear about it. And if people understand what they're in for, and they've got that, they just want to be involved, they'll do it, and they will do it willingly. And that's how I started out. I had zero knowledge about how to assist in running a club, or how to run a men's section, or how to open up our club to the broader communities. But I learnt, and I had passion for it, and I wanted to do it, and I believed in what we wanted to achieve as a club and as a family. And that led me down a path where I could learn more and understand more about what I'm trying to do through education. And now I have a better skill set that benefited me both on weekend sport, and also within the work environment as well. professionally. I got a lot out of it professionally as well. So there's a plug for being a volunteer. You get free training for something that can help you out in your workplace.
Very good, Chris. Well, Chris, we could talk for hours, and to be fair, we nearly have. So thank you so much for being part of this Vic Health supported program, doing sport differently. Your club is almost the poster club of the benefits of creating opportunities for people not currently participating and the value that it creates. So, Chris, and to the Frankston Stingrays Hockey Club, thank you so much for sharing your story with us today on Sports Community Live Stream.
Thanks for having me. Get out there, play sport, folks, and look after each other.
Brilliant, Chris. Thank you very much. Yeah. And to everyone else, thank you very much for being part of this live stream and being part of our sports community.